Do you know there are 4 basic evolutionary problems that we as humans face? Existence, adaptation, absorption, and abstraction. There are also 2 ways to handle these problems, either positive or negative. My name is Prashanthi Reddy, a corporate professional. I was discovered by Parvati as a yoga instructor. Parvati is my friend. So one day she stopped me after my workout at the gym, and she asked me for basic advice on her back pain. And I gave her some basic advice to work out in the gym, and I said, yoga would be much better considering the intensity of her back pain. She asked me if I could help her learn. Next thing I know, I was teaching a class of 10 people along with her. And that's how I became a yoga teacher. Since then, I have gone after getting a teacher training done, conducting corporate sessions, individual sessions, and also private classes. The most I've enjoyed doing is a community class, a class that could enable the community to help each other, teach each other, without any setback on rules, and nothing to follow a cult, no to follow cult, basically to practice for the sake of health, happiness, and freedom. And today, I'm not here to talk about how good yoga is for you, but I'm here to share my story, how yoga has actually helped me in my overall well-being, mind, body, and soul. Using passion and prudence to make meaningful decisions, help me build the free will, and also to be living in an open-mindedness. So when you allow nature to nurture you is when you give yourself an environment that can show your best self shine. I was only 6 years old when I was introduced to chanting and meditation. My high school tuition classes wouldn't start without a 30-minute of meditation. Now, I was not doing any of this with an utmost awareness or any intention. I was actually doing it for the sake of somebody had asked me to do it, and I was just following the process. So, when you look at how nature is helping you, nurture you, is a very important point to identify, relate, let it allow you to guide you to the process where you're allowing everything else happen around you. That doesn't bring me to become a yogi completely. I went on to explore many things in life. Self-discovery happened very later for me, while it started early on, but it surfaced only later on. So, along with my career goals, career aspirations, I was also exploring different fitness regimes. Started from classical dance, horse riding, went on to do biking, running, swimming. Sometime during mid-2000, one fine New York winter, I just finished 2 sets of running marathons and 2 sets of bike rides. I wanted to try something different, and when I looked up something that was indoors, it reminded me of yoga. And I said, why don't I go in for a yoga class? So I looked up, browsed through the net, and found a yoga school 2 blocks down the lane from my apartment. Now, my criteria to join a yoga class was an Indian-led yoga school. So I went and looked up the director's name. The director's name was Rudrani. Well, I said, great, and I registered myself for 10 classes. I started the classes, went on day after day into the week, and I saw these American teachers coming and teaching the class. I was enjoying the process, but I still wanted to see my Indian teacher, Rudrani. So what I did was I went back to the reception asking for when is my Indian teacher's class. She said Sunday is going to be her class. I said, great, and I was eagerly waiting for my Sunday's class. And meanwhile, I was enjoying the process of learning yoga through the American teachers. The process was 2-hour session, a detailed explanation about what each asana would benefit, Sanskrit meaning, translating it to English, etc. Sunday class came by, went by, I still couldn't locate my Indian teacher. So I finally went back again, anxiously asking the same question to the reception. So she said that the class just I attended was Rudrani's class. I was taken back a little. I looked at this 60-something-year-old American woman sitting out there at the far end of the room. I walked up to her, waited till she finished her conversation with others, interrupted to introduce myself, and I said, I apologized first, and I said, my interpretation of Rudrani to being an Indian and how I landed up in her school. She smiled. She jokingly said that she was intimidated by my presence, an Indian, in her class, and she was correcting her Sanskrit names. This was funny enough, but she was very humble to say that. She lived in India during early 70s for 5 years to learn yoga, and since then she's had the school for about 30 years. Now, this was the first time I was challenged against my belief system. Unless you challenge and accept, nothing will change or move forward. So are you allowing nature to nurture you is another question that we all ask. So when you're accepting the process of allowing the nature to nurture you, you're also allowing the environment to build around you, to have those unlimited opportunities that are not surfacing will start surfacing in your environment. So now, when you look at my couple of poses that I actually have put in here, the opportunities that were available for me within my environment was all not from a yoga class or another training program. It was all from my immediate environment, my fellow yogis. Unless until I reached out to them, irrespective of their being a male or a female, and they would actually come back to me with an answer or a solution. How to get into the pose, what are the benefits, why should I do what I'm doing, so the alignments, what you see here, might be different for me than similar to you. So it is very individualistic, and if you talk to any of the yoga practitioners, they would let you know that body alignment is very important. And it is very different from each other. So my environment that I was seeking for help from actually was providing me very subconsciously that I was seeking out. So my yoga practice has been very self-learned way of method. Recently, there's been much discussion around the term feminism. Mostly, it boils down to the basic misunderstanding of what a feminism actually means. Either you can look at a half glass full or a half glass empty. Both might be important in this case, but let's look at half glass full. I grew up unknowing of the fact that I was different from my brother. Like many of you here, I've had a very humble upbringing. I'm no extraordinary, no different from the profile that they read out. I'm like any one of you. So whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're always right, irrespective of you being a woman or a man. Let me repeat this. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're always right, irrespective of you being a woman or a man. So you have to realize that the self-worth, the limitations, the capabilities, the ability, everything lies within you. My dad, 70-year-old now, is an invisible support system for my life. He would tell my first grade teacher that, I don't care if my daughter fails, dare you beat her, right? I don't know how many kids here would relate to this reference point. This was early 80s. Me and him would argue about what kind of what subject I should take up, a major I should take up in college. He would say, if I'm paying for your college, I want you to study science, go to medical school. I would argue with him saying, if I'm going to college, I will take up commerce, and I hate science. Long story short, we landed up at the admissions office of my college, and he was filling up the form, and I was anxiously not accepting, but still standing next to him. I don't know what changed, but he ticked commerce versus science. Now, my life wouldn't have been the same if I would have missed the chance of choosing on that day. The life would have been different. What I recognize from this particular experience is the self-decision capability was always within me. Unless you recognize it, nobody else will. Unless you would demonstrate it, nobody else would believe you. To trust is to surrender. A big statement. And this pose, what you're seeing here, is me, real. But every time I go back to this pose to look at if I could get into the pose, it is not easy. If you ask me to do it here, probably I might not. That's because if you talk to any of the yogis, they will tell you that the surrender and the place to trust is their mat. It's the same for me as well. There is also a place where you have to find where you need to be vulnerable, be confident. It's okay to fail. It's okay to fall. That's the place I go to whenever I teach or take a class or a group class or whatever, right? So this place is my practice place. My practice is very personal. So I fail, I fall, I founder, I think about it, I seek for help, etc. Similarly, drawing parallels to life, placed for me to trust is my brother. A soul self, biggest critic, strongest support system in my life. Me and him wouldn't agree upon anything in common, but yet I wouldn't do anything without bouncing off him. Because this is the place I go back to, demonstrating, being myself, using the words that I would want to, without thinking of self-worth. It gives me a place without being concerned about who I am, what I am. I'm going to fail, I'm going to not fail. It is a place where I can bounce off ideas, even though it might not make sense. It's a place where I get a real feedback. And I'm okay to be similar. After I test and try on this ground, I'm okay to test and try on the rest of the other part of the world. He would actually instill the confidence in me to go after many things in life. Some part of it came naturally to follow him, like thinking like him, driving like him. He wouldn't agree if he's listening to this now that I would drive better than him, but I would want to claim that. I would watch his movie list, not exactly the boys' movie list, but some part of it. So how did this happen? Some part of it came in naturally because I grew up with two boys, my brother and my cousin, my childhood playmates. Some part of it I learned along the way. I would doubt myself, but he wouldn't. He would say, if somebody else can do it, you can do it even better. So this was my trusting ground. This was my place to go every single time, continues to be. Unless you demonstrate your capabilities on this ground, the trusting ground, you will not be able to find the required support to go after your dreams. Creating a life of awareness and intention. It's a very important statement. For a yoga practice, it's utmost important to create that awareness and intention, absolutely. Because the practice can swing you either to be very egoistic or to be very timid. It can swing very extreme. Similarly in life, if you're not grounded, self-centered, be aware, you're always, you don't know what you're doing. One of my bosses from my work, ex-bosses from my work, he would walk into this 500-seated member-seated hall, and he would actually bump into anybody, everybody, and voluntarily talk to them. He would know their name, he would know what they do, a fun fact about them, a personal history about them. He would actually talk to them as if he knew them very well. Imagine Narendra Modi walking into this place and having a one-on-one with you. Well, that's just an analogy, not to be anything about for or against it. So this man had demonstrated the best leadership in our team. He would actually talk to me for 15 minutes and I would be motivated for next 3 months. He would ask me some basic existential questions, like why I'm doing what I'm doing, change my thought process around a lot of things. Unless you recognize a place where you create an environment of awareness and intention, you'll not be able to look at beyond grounding yourself for your clarity. Well, everything that happens is a very small part of our life. We can look at it very passively or proactively. We can choose to take an action on it or not take an action on it. The choice is yours. You can look at it as a glass full or a half glass empty. You think you can or you think you can't, you're always right. Yoga continues to be my journey to explore my strengths, weakness, capabilities, and ability. What is yours? Thank you.